The Black Plague. The Black Death, also known as the Great Plague, plague, was the most devastating pandemic recorded in human history, resulting in the deaths of 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia, peaking in Europe between the years 1347 and 1351. The bacterium Yersinia pestis, which results in various forms of plague, septicemic, pneumonic and, most commonly, bubonic, is believed to have been the cause. The Black Death was the first major European plague outbreak and the disease's second pandemic. The plague created a series of religious, social and economic upheavals, with profound effects on the course of European history. The Black Death probably had its origin in Central Asia or East Asia, from where it traveled along the Silk Road, reaching the Crimea in 1343. From there it was probably carried by fleas that lived on the rats that traveled on Genoese merchant ships, spreading across the entire Mediterranean basin, reaching the rest of Europe via the Italian peninsula. The Black Death is estimated to have killed between 30% to 60% of Europe's population in total. Recent censuses estimate that the plague may have reduced the world population from 475 million to 350 to 375 million in the 14th century. The population of Europe took about 200 years to recover to the previous level, and some regions, such as Florence, only recovered in the 19th century. The plague returned several times as outbreaks until the early 20th century. The outbreak in Europe. There seem to have been several introductions in Europe. The plague reached Sicily in October 1347-43, carried by 12 Genoese galleys and quickly spread across the island. Caffa's galleys arrived in Genoa and Venice in January 1348, but it was the outbreak in Pisa a few weeks later that marked the entry point into northern Italy. From Italy, the disease spread northwest across Europe, reaching France, heat-stricken Spain. The epidemic occurred in the first weeks of July, Portugal and England in June 1348, also continuing to spread east and north through Germany, Scotland and Scandinavia from 1348 to 1350. It was introduced to Norway in 1349 and a ship landed at Askøy, later spreading to Bjorgvin, modern Bergen, and Iceland. Finally, it continued to spread to northwest Russia in 1351. Plague was less common in parts of Europe with less developed trade with its neighbors and through quarantines, including most of the Basque country, isolated parts of Belgium, the Netherlands, Poland and isolated alpine villages across the continent. According to some epidemiologists, periods of unfavorable weather decimated plague-infected rodent populations and forced their fleas to seek alternative hosts, inducing plague outbreaks that often peaked during the hot Mediterranean summer, as well as during the state's cold autumn months. From the southern Baltic. However, other researchers do not think the plague has become endemic in Europe or the rat population. The disease repeatedly swept through rodent carriers, so the fleas disappeared until a new outbreak from Central Asia repeated the process. Outbreaks have been shown to occur approximately 15 years after a warmer and wetter period in areas where plague is endemic in other species such as gerbils. Chases. Renewed religious fervor and fanaticism flourished with the outbreak of the Black Death. Various groups, such as Jews, friars, foreigners, beggars, pilgrims, Muslims, lepers, sodomites and gypsies, were targets of persecution and similarly blamed for the spread of the disease, and others with skin conditions such as acne or psoriasis were killed across Europe. As 14th-century healers and governments did not have any tools to explain or stop the disease, Europeans turned to astrological forces, earthquakes, and the poisoning of wells by Jews as possible reasons for outbreaks. Many believed that the epidemic was God's punishment for their sins, and could be alleviated with God's forgiveness. There were many attacks against Jewish communities. In the Strasbourg massacre of February 1349, about 2,000 Jews were murdered. In August 1349, the Jewish communities in Mainz and Cologne were annihilated. By 1351, 60 larger and 150 smaller Jewish communities had been destroyed. During this period, many Jews moved to Poland, where they were warmly welcomed by King Casimir the Great. This video is just a brief summary, and of course many things were left out. Don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to our channel, and see you next time.